everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Gold Hoops and God podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Lauren Guerra, and I have a very special guest. Today, I have Lupita Castañeda-Liles. She is an amazing young woman. I'm really happy to have you here, Lupita.
Thank
Yay!
you so much for having me. I'm really excited to
Yay!
be here.
So Lupita is doing a lot of amazing things. She currently is at USC. It's her first year at USC, and she's studying neuroscience. And on top of that, she's also the co-founder of Becoming Mujeres, which is a really special program that focuses on Latina mental health, especially with young women and talking to their female caregivers. So Lupita has a lot of wisdom to share with us today. I'm so excited.
I'm really excited. I've been dying to have a really good conversation about this. But like you said, being that I'm in college, it's really difficult to find spaces and time for that. So I'm
Yes.
really grateful for this opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, this is exciting. So we'll kind of dive in and talk about culture. So many Latinas kind of being Latino is a complex culture in and of itself because we're not just one thing. We are always already a mix of different backgrounds. And so even the terms can be a little bit confusing. Like some people like the term Hispanic, some like Latina, some don't like either of those words. So how do you self-identify, Lupita?
Well, on the surface level, when most people meet me, typically they don't even assume I'm Latina. They assume I'm completely something else. So typically, just to get it out of the way, I'm like, no, I am Latina. Like this is who I am. And then they ask me, well, what type of Latina are you? Which
Mhm.
that question, although not necessarily harmful in itself, feels very reducing because
It
why does
does,
it have to
yeah.
be what type?
What
So
kind are you? Yeah, it's a little
exactly, what
odd, yeah.
kind am I? So typically I just say like, oh, I'm Mexican. But if I find myself within my Latino community, which
Mhm.
thankfully here at USC is very robust, and I'm
Yeah,
actually able to have my own community of people that understand me,
yeah.
then I'm actually able to reveal how I actually identify, which is a Chicana because
Mhm,
I'm neither here nor there. I live
mhm,
in between two worlds, and
mhm.
even though it's very complex to navigate,
Yeah,
I have grown up in many realms of complexity. So I have not only found comfort, but I find something very beautiful being comprised of two different identities. So that's why, and I know there's many people who do not like the term Chicana or Chicano. They prefer,
mhm,
like you said, something else, something more general because they feel like it's too specific or too restrictive. But for
yeah.
me, I find comfort in something that more accurately represents how I truly identify because
Mhm,
when I'm in Mexico, people automatically know. They're like, you're from the US, you're
right.
from Los Estados Unidos.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I don't find that offensive because it's true, I am. But then
Yeah,
when I'm here in the US, people automatically know. They're like, well, you're not fully American. You're not
right.
fully this, you're not fully that. There's
Yeah.
always something else that they see
Mhm,
in me. And often
mhm.
I get told, "Oh, I knew you had a little spice in you. I knew you had a little this in you," like as if I'm a recipe comprised of different ingredients, which
Right.
could be quite metaphorical when done properly, but when that's used as a form of description that essentially invalidates a true identity,
Mhm.
it's it feels really difficult because
Yeah.
talking about identity should be something empowering, not something that you feel like you have to defend, which is why I prefer the term Chicana, because
Uh-huh.
I feel like those who know what that means,
No.
those who know
Mhm.
the historical context behind it, will
Right.
learn to appreciate the fact that I can confidently claim that's how I identify because I understand what that
Mhm.
like what that entails.
Definitely. Yeah, with the word Chicana, there is a whole political history, academic
Mhm.
history. It is an empowering word. And it is different. It is to say
Yeah.
Chicana is something pretty specific versus saying like, oh, I'm Mexican American. You know,
Mhm.
there's more to it. And like you said, like those who know, right? Those people who understand what that means. It's like, ah, okay, now I understand a little bit more about her in choosing that term to self-identify. And it's true. I think that's one of the things that can be so challenging for many of us is this sense of like not fitting in. Like I'm Guatemalan Ecuadorian, and when I've gone, to Latin America, it's like, well, yeah, you're Latina, but you're from the US as well. It's not just one thing. So I
Yeah,
appreciate that. That's really great.
thank you.
Amazing. So thank you for sharing that as far as like culture. It's really great. And I'm so glad that at USC there is a diversity of Latino students. That's really awesome. Because it can be hard too. It can be very, it can be isolating, especially like going to a school
Mhm.
and, in the classroom and you're like the only Latina in the
Yeah,
classroom, the only Latina in the group. It can be a little bit awkward sometimes. So I'm
yeah,
glad that the school is diverse. I mean, USC is a pretty diverse place, and so I'm glad you've been able to connect with other Latino students. That's great.
yeah. I mean, I'm
Cool.
really, really grateful because I mean, I do find um many times, like back in high school, I was typically the only like Latina in my class, but
Mm,
especially even here at USC, unfortunately, there have been times where I am the only Latina in my class, especially in the
mm,
really, really small ones. I
right.
typically am the only one. And I find myself in situations where if I'm talking about my culture, I have to talk about the history because most people don't get taught that when they're in school.
Right.
But and it's even more restrictive being in STEM, being in neuroscience. I've
Yes.
only met two other Latinas in neuroscience, and I
Yeah.
immediately befriended both of them because
Good for
it's
you.
really hard to find other people here. So that's why I really emphasize, not only just in my work, but just in my daily life, the importance of finding community and finding people that also identify with you or identify similarly. So you have the opportunity to talk about different things with them and not feel like you have to further explain everything behind it.
Exactly. I think that's a big part of why it's so important to find people who have a similar background or who can at least relate, is not having
Mhm.
to explain oneself or defend oneself with everything, right?
Yeah.
And it's connected to what we were saying earlier about culture. I think of, the classic like Gloria Anzaldúa, the borderlands, like literally being ni de aquí ni de allá, and trying to find people to connect with. And it's true. Like, so for
Yeah.
example, if you are taking like only Chicano studies classes, the likelihood of being in a classroom with
Yeah.
more Latinos is higher
Mhm.
versus other fields where it might not have that kind of diversity. So I'm glad that you've been able to connect with a couple people. That's great.
Yes, it is.
Awesome. Wonderful. So, the other topic that we always dive into here on the podcast is about religion, faith broadly defined. I know that for many of us Latinas, we are exposed to Catholicism or at least Christianity by and large. Most of us are exposed, and it's because culture is so intertwined with faith for Latinos. And so I would love to hear, Lupita, from you kind of how you understand your faith or how you understand like that connection between faith and culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember not only just having this conversation with other people, but just even with my own parents, because I remember like they were telling me, they're like, you're an adult, you have the choice of whether or not you're going to do what you want to do in your life. And I
Right.
remember I also talked about it with my abuelitos who are very, very Catholic. And they would
Hmm.
tell me, they're like, you don't have to go to Mass every Sunday, but just know that's how you were raised. And the thing is
Hmm.
that most people, unfortunately, in my generation, I have noticed, aren't necessarily very connected with their faith or do not
Right.
identify with one specific faith, which could also make it hard to connect with other people because I
Hmm.
myself identify as Catholic. And when I say
Hmm.
Catholic, they're like, oh, you mean like the typical American Catholic? I'm like, no, I'm Mexican Catholic, which I feel like is so severely different because,
Yeah.
like you said, it is so intertwined with culture.
Yeah.
And like I was mentioning previously, talking with people who don't understand that, it could be very difficult to explain because I've gotten asked, like, well, who are you without your faith? And I'm like, that's not even a question. My faith is part of
Hmm.
me. I am part of my faith. And
Hmm.
my faith is part of my culture, and my culture is inherently who I am. And
Hmm.
you can't take those things apart. It's like different golden hoops stuck
Yes.
together. You can't rip
I
them
love
apart
it.
because why would you want to? like there's something so beautiful about being intertwined. There's something so beautiful about the intertextuality that comes with this
Mhm.
intersection. And when people don't understand that, or when people can't relate to that, it can be difficult to talk about these things, especially with me finding myself so passionate about it. But also, given the fact that USC is so incredibly diverse, I've had a lot of beautiful conversations, not only with other people who do not define themselves by one specific faith,
Uh-huh.
which also I have learned is so incredibly beautiful when people open themselves up to multiple different faiths. They like
Yeah.
to learn. I'm not sure if the term is being a universalist, but
Mhm.
it's very, very beautiful, but also meeting with other people of different faiths and
Yeah.
connecting with them about being so passionate, about being so connected, having something that grounds you and keeps you rooted. Because for me, Catholicism is not just something to practice, it is
Right.
something that I find very comforting because there have been many, many times where I have been tested, I have been
Mhm.
stressed, I've loved, I have lost, and there were times where I was at rock bottom
Mhm.
completely, and the only thing that was keeping me going, because it kept me rooted, was my
Yes.
faith.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I would show you my dorm, but I don't wanna be, like, grabbing the camera
Oh.
and, like, pulling it up, like, everywhere, but right above my bed, I have a cross, I have a little plaque of La Virgencita.
Oh,
Right
I
next
love
to
it.
my desk, I'll show it, I have this little monita from Mexico
Oh, it's so
that I actually
beautiful.
had blessed at one of the really, really pristine churches in,
Oh,
Zacatecas, which
I
was
love it.
really, really beautiful to go to.
That's so cool.
I have a bunch of candles over there because trust me, I have been relying on those candles this final season. I mean,
Yes, I love it.
back at home, they're lighting candles for me. Back here, even though candles are not technically allowed in the dorms, I am still lighting them safely, of course.
Yes,
Because, like I said, it's a form of comfort. It's something that
it's
keeps me
beautiful.
going. And when most people think about being Catholic or being Christian or being religious,
Mhm.
unfortunately, being that it's also intertwined with politics, it's been tainted. The way that people practice, people automatically associate it with different forms of lifestyles that are often restrictive or
Right.
judgmental, when in reality, faith is not supposed to be that. Like, we are taught to be loving of all people. We are taught to
Mhm.
be caring. We are taught to be empathetic. We literally are taught to put ourselves in the position of another person to
Mhm.
know what it's like to be them.
Yeah.
And people who use faith to justify that, that is not what I align myself with. And I
Good for you.
always clarify that when people ask
Yeah.
me that. Because in this, unfortunately, political state that we're in, this state that we're in that really has become incredibly polar, where you
Mhm.
have to decide like you and you have to explain yourself so much
Mhm.
so that your words don't get turned around. You have to clarify
Yeah.
because, like I said before, things that were meant for us to find solace in, to find community in,
Mhm.
to find something that keeps us going, something
Mhm.
that for me is very therapeutic. I find so much comfort in prayer because for me, that's my time to reflect on what's going on in my life. I talk to Diosito and I tell him everything that's going on, things that I feel like I can't tell other people, I tell him. And even though sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm like, so when am I gonna get a response back? Like, when are you
Right, right, right.
I
Praying
know
and hoping and praying and
I'm
waiting,
hoping
yeah.
and praying. I'm like, give me a sign.
I need a sign. I totally understand what
Yeah.
you mean by that.
And I'm just like, it's sometimes there is not a visible sign, but I have
There's
learned
it doesn't always the sign or the result isn't always what we would have liked,
exactly.
but and that's the big
Yeah,
but to it is that but it's what God knows in God's infinite
exactly.
wisdom knows what we need at that time. And
Exactly.
it's not always comfortable.
Mm.
It's not always
It's
fun.
not.
It's not always comfortable. It's not exactly makes us, happy about it. But again, I think that's where the trust in the divine plan or trust in
Yeah,
God's plan for our lives really comes in. So
Absolutely. I
yeah.
completely agree because,
'Cause there's so many
like,
things. There's so many things that we apply for, that we try for, that, relationships that didn't go the way that we hoped.
yeah,
All of that. Like
yeah,
there's a reason. There's a path, a pathway that we
exactly.
can't always see ahead, but God
Yeah,
knows what's ahead. So,
absolutely. And I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. There's been so many times where I'm like, God, if this is not meant for me, remove it from my life. And I'm like,
mm,
it's gonna stay in my life because I know it's meant for me. Boom, completely. The next
good
day,
for
couple
you.
hours, gone.
Good
And
for
I'm
you.
just like,
That's amazing. I'm like
yeah,
so proud of you, Lupita, because that takes a lot of
yeah,
it really takes a lot of maturity
hmm,
to be able to see um, that things leave us for a reason
yeah,
sometimes. We can't cling on. It's believe me, not it's easier, what's that phrase? Easier said than done. Because
yeah,
of course we like to be comfortable. We like to things
of
to go
course. Yeah,
smoothly. We want certain things our way. That's the biggest thing. We
yeah,
want certain things done in our way and in our time. And that's just not how it is. And so I applaud you for having that maturity and having that foresight already at a
thank
young
you.
age. I mean, that's great. That's awesome.
Thank you. And I do appreciate that because I feel like, at least the way that my parents raised me, they made it very evident that, given, like I said, everything that's going on, like, it's essential for us to have maturity at a young age
Yeah.
because we're thrusted into difficult, difficult realms, especially educationally. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you've noticed, but in terms of like the amount of academic rigor that people are put under at even younger ages, I look at my,
Yeah.
like, my little cousins and I'm seeing the work they're doing and I'm like, that is insane. You have to
Very.
be
Yeah.
mature. You have to learn how to do all these things that you would expect to learn in adulthood. You have
Mm,
to learn it as a child so that when you become an adult,
yeah.
you're not scared. You're not overwhelmed. And
Exactly.
the way that I see it is I would rather rip off the band-aid than continue picking at the scab.
Oh, well, yeah. That's incredible. Yeah, that's very well said. Very well said.
Because
Amazing.
why would you want to continue something that you know is going to hurt you when you know that the temporary pain that you feel is going to be so much more beneficial?
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. And so I love how you mentioned how faith is really connected to culture, and
Mhm.
that you are Mexican Catholic, Mexican
Yeah.
American Catholic, Chicana Catholic, right?
Mhm.
Do you mind, could you give us a little bit more as far as like what are some examples that you're like, oh, this is you kind of were pointing to that as far as like Our Lady of Guadalupe. I know that she's so
Yeah.
central to you and your faith, but are there other kind of examples that you might be able to share as far as like how those two are so tied together? I think that would
Yeah,
be really amazing.
of course. I mean, the one thing that most people always think of when they think of Catholic Mexican celebrations is obviously Dia de los Muertos, Christmas, like all the
Yeah,
really, it's like all the really big celebrations that happen November,
yeah,
December, January. And of course, those are so, so beautiful. I love Dia de los Muertos so much because I find so much comfort building ofrendas and getting to uphold the memory of my very large family. But
mhm,
also, since it's tied to my faith, I know that they're still watching over me because I do believe that there is a heaven. I do believe that there's an afterlife. And I believe that they're watching over me while I'm doing these cultural practices and making them happy.
mhm,
But the thing is that that's not the only thing that
mhm,
defines being Mexican Catholic. Most
mhm,
people stop there, but they don't
mhm,
think ahead of that.
mhm,
I think of the amount of churches when I do go back to Mexico. I absolutely love every single church that I see. And trust me, there are so many, especially when I go
mhm.
back to the very small pueblitos that my family are, like, all my family is from.
Oh, yeah.
Churches everywhere. And
Mhm,
you walk down the street and you turn around and you see people doing the sign of the cross before they enter their work, or you see
mhm.
people talking about faith so freely in just daily conversations. There's no
Yeah,
stigma surrounding it. It's
it's
part of life,
beautiful.
it's part of identity. You
Yeah.
see people with Catholic names and there's reasoning behind it. It's, at least for me, I don't bat an eye when I see a guy named Jesus, or
Mm-mm.
if I see a friend named Maria or like lo que sea. It doesn't,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
normal for us.
It's normal. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what I
Mhm.
find so beautiful because you don't have to ask further questions.
Mhm.
It's
It's yeah,
it's rooted,
it's well accepted.
it's well
Yeah.
accepted. And
Mhm.
there's something so beautiful about that. And like I said, it all ties back to community. There there are so many even typical phrases that
Mhm.
people say, and I have done it many, many times with people here at USC, with a lot of the workers here, with a lot of even like faculty and staff, like some of
Mhm.
my professors that I know are Latino. When I leave the class and I know that they're Catholic, it's almost second nature when I say,
Mhm.
Que Dios lo bendiga.
It's automatic.
It's
It's yeah,
automatic.
absolutely. No, absolutely. I think that is such a good point, and that's what I'm, hoping
Yeah.
the listeners will pick up on is that it's almost an automatic given. It's a given,
Yeah.
especially for example, in Mexico,
Mhm.
someone saying bendición, las bendiciones, que Dios lo bendiga, God bless you, uh, having rosaries around, having,
Mhm.
uh, the Virgen de Guadalupe, having a
Yeah.
crucifix, having an image of the Last Supper, all those
Yeah.
symbolic items around the home, around the office space, everywhere. It's
Yeah.
because it's so widely accepted and infused in Latino culture, Latin American culture
Yeah.
primarily. And so I'm really glad that I'm glad that you mentioned that. It's
Yeah, of
great.
course. And
Thank you.
I always
Mhm.
tell, I remember one of my friends who was not Latina came to my house for the first time, and
Mhm.
she's like, "Your house looks like a church with all the altars you have." And trust me, I will admit that maybe my family did go a little overboard when it came to decorations, but
That's
I
okay.
loved
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
You walk even before you enter the house, you see all this religious memorabilia sprawled across the front. You have a little placard of La Virgencita right
That's
before you
awesome.
enter the door. And I was always taught you bless yourself before you enter, you bless yourself before you leave. So you enter
Yeah.
with good energy and you leave with good energy. Then
Absolutely.
you go into the house, there's a table set with all these little statues, all these little things passed down from generations.
Yes.
And like that's also very emphasized. Like this is not
Yes.
recent. This is not something that was old and was
No.
lost. Like this is generational and has been upheld by generations. It's
Absolutely.
something you inherit. And I think that's so beautiful because
Yes.
it's besides it just being a physical item that you get from your family,
Mhm.
there's something that keeps you connected to them
Yeah.
simply by practicing it. That is so
Absolutely.
beautiful.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
there's pictures, there's there's a priest that my mother used to work with very very deeply. His name was
Mhm.
Padre Mateo, and
Mhm.
even though I never had the opportunity to meet him because he passed before I was born, I feel like I know him because not only do I see his picture all over the house, so many
Oh,
pictures of him
yeah.
everywhere, but the stories that I hear about the connectedness to faith, the
Yes.
bringing faith into the classroom, not just by talking about it, but just knowing in your heart that that's what keeps you motivated. That's what made you go to
Exactly.
class. You prayed before
Exactly.
you entered the classroom. And
Yeah.
that's why when I came here to college, even though I'm separated from my family, I feel more connected to them now more than ever because of the fact that I had the option to bring what I wanted to bring here. And
Mhm.
the first thing I put in my luggage was all my religious memorabilia that I
I
had in my
love
room
it.
because
That's
I knew I was like,
awesome.
I need that in my room because when
It's gonna feel like home. Like those items are part of home, right? I'm guessing that that's why you wanted to
they
bring
are
those
part
with
of
you.
home.
Okay.
And when I have my Latino friends come over, they're like, "Oh my goodness, you make it seem like it's your house," or like, "Oh, this reminds me of my house," because they see
Yeah.
all this stuff
It's
sprawled out
similar.
everywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's similar. And the fact that we can recognize that, I think that's also really critical. Like that your friends can walk in and there's an immediate connection, recognition of like, oh yeah, this reminds me of my home or my grandma's home or things like that. And that's really beautiful. We have a saint, there's saints and then also a baby Jesus, like a nativity set,
Yeah.
ninito here, at my parents' house. And that ninito came from, I want to say from my great grandmother or great great grandmother. It's
Yeah.
way over 120 20 years old or something, and apparently it survived a fire at some point in, at some point. And so things like that, like those are really special treasures, that it,
Yeah.
because it's not only tradition, it's history, it's faith, like all wrapped up into
Yeah.
one. Like it's something so sacred, actually. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I totally understand. We have altars and things here at our
Yeah.
house too, so I get it. Yeah, that's awesome,
Yeah.
Lupita. Amazing.
Thank you.
So, as we kind of wrap up our time together, I want to ask you for advice for our listeners. So, I always ask folks, because I think, for many of us had to grow up very quickly, especially as immigrant children, facing
Mhm.
different things, having to grow up very quickly, that I always like to ask about the inner Nina, the little you. And so I would ask, like, what advice would you give little Lupita? And
Mhm.
then what advice would you give young people today? Because there's so much going on.
Yeah.
And I love that you are so committed to working on things with mental health. I'm a big proponent of mental health as well. So I would love to hear from you.
Yeah, of course. I think, and I've been thinking about this a lot now that I'm in college. And the reason I emphasize that is because even though I did have to mature very quickly as a child, I'm being tested every day. My mother could tell you, my father could tell you that I'm calling them all the time. I'm at the store and I'm calling them. I'm like, "Mommy, how do I pick eggs? Like, I can't tell, like,
Oh,
how to
yeah.
get eggs." I was like, "Mommy, what
Yeah.
sound does the watermelon have to make it to
Adulting, right? Hashtag adulting, right? Like,
it's hard, and it's like, they don't teach you these
if
things.
you
I wish
haven't done
they
it,
did.
no, it's true.
Yeah.
You know what? To your point, there's so many. It's true. There's so many little things that we
Yeah.
don't get taught. You just kind of like observe it, or you sort of pick up on it by observing your parents, but not necessarily. Like,
Yeah.
so for example, like grocery shopping, if they go grocery shopping and just bring everything, you might not know how to grocery shop on your own at the store, right? So things like that. So, oh my gosh.
Yeah. And, like, I asked them, I was like,
That's sweet.
"Is the $2, like, apple better than the $3 one? Like, what is, like, the paraben-free, organic, gluten-free, blah, blah, blah?" And I'm like,
Yeah,
Should I get
yeah.
this?" And obviously, they don't teach you that, nor
Right,
is it expected for you to know that when you pop out of the womb.
right,
So,
right.
like I said, like, there's a lot of things that I go through, like, now where I'm like, I feel like I should have known this because of the fact that when I was maturing as a child, I thought I was ready for adulthood.
Hmm.
And now that I'm here and I'm not super far away from my family, but far enough where I don't see them every day.
Right,
The only way I'm able to see them is by calling them.
right.
And when it's 2, 3, 4 in the morning and I'm like, "Mommy, my tummy hurts." Like, what do I
Oh,
do?
yeah,
Um, it's difficult, but I would obviously tell my younger self, like, "Hey, you're gonna go through many transitions even if you feel like you know everything."
yeah, yeah. It's,
You like,
it's so
unfortunately,
true.
yeah.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, I didn't, and I thought I did. I thought I was ready. I thought I was like, because that's what everyone told me. They're like, "You're so mature. You're like an adult. You're like a mini me." Like, when my mother would be talking, like, to her friends, to her
Oh,
coworkers, she's like, "She's my mini me. She's so ready for adulthood. She's so ready for college." That's the one thing I was always told as a child,
right.
even in middle school, even in elementary school. I would be told, "You're so ready for adulthood. You're so ready for college."
Yeah,
Um, it it was very it was expected for me to be prepared, and now
yeah,
that I'm here, I'm not, and I wish I had told my younger self to just appreciate being young,
yeah,
because
Y- yeah,
there's no matter how much you feel like you're in the moment, no matter how much you tell yourself, "I'm enjoying every second of this," meanwhile, you're just trying to get through the day.
yeah,
There's so much gratitude we have to remind ourselves to have,
yeah,
because even when you're in spaces where you feel like everything sucks and everything is terrible,
yeah,
you're going to look back eventually and say, I wish I had been more thankful.
Yeah.
And I have found myself doing that a lot here. Like I would, even when I had 50 plus assignments to do in high school, I
Mhm.
remember thinking, I want to go back. Like I want to be there. I want to be with family. I want to take a nap on my couch in the living room and wake up to my abuelita making
Aw,
tortillas on the comal. And I can't do that here, obviously, because my abuelita's not here. And
yeah.
obviously, when I go home with such more, like a more refined, deep, deep gratitude that
Yes.
I
That
didn't think that I could have because, like I said, I thought I was mature enough as a child, but when you obviously transition where different things that you took for granted are
Yeah,
removed, you come back with such a deep appreciation and
yeah,
such a deep love for the fact that you had the opportunity to even experience that in the first place.
yeah,
And that brings me to my next point is not only is this advice for me, but this is advice for everybody from all ages is to just be grateful because even in those moments that you think I hate this. I don't want to be here. I want to
mhm,
be there. I wish I was already here.
mhm,
Because we always as humans, we're always inclined to always want to be in the next step.
yeah,
We're like, I don't want to be here. I want to be there. I I want a better job. I wish I had more money. I would at least for me right now, I'm like, I'd rather be in medical school. I'd rather get my degree. But when you're in those points in high school, I was like, I want to be in college. I want to live
yeah.
on my own.
It's
I
always
want to do this.
it's something I don't know if it's human nature, how we're wired, or why it is, but I think that happens with everybody. That we're
Yeah.
always wanting to like go to the next, the next, the next, the
Yeah.
next, right? Constantly like going forward without taking the time to appreciate where we are and to know, in other words, our job is never
Job is
done,
never done.
right? We're never done. We're
Yeah.
constantly evolving. And it's true, like we get ready for college, and then after college I want that first job, and then from the typical, I call it the checklist that most people are like, I want to get married, I want to have kids, and it's like we move down this checklist of events, and we're always, at least for me, I catch myself trying to speed it up, trying to
Yeah,
speed up to
exactly.
the next, like, oh, everything will be get better once I get that next job, or everything will be better once I do
Yeah.
this, complete that. It's like, no,
Yeah.
until we learn how to live in the moment, or at
Mhm.
least have appreciation and gratitude for this
Yeah.
moment, it's so important. It's so important to approach, to approach life with gratitude. And I think, Lupita, I think when folks were saying like, oh, you're super mature, I think also what can be said is you have a good head on your shoulders.
Mhm.
In other words, like, of course things are life is life.
Yeah.
Life is life, and we don't know, it's true, like we don't know everything. Even when we think we know everything, we get surprised, right? And that's
Definitely.
normal, but more than anything, I think that folks were saw in you that she
Yeah.
has a good head on her shoulders. She'll figure it out. Whatever it is, like, that you're mature enough to make sense of things and to figure it out. So it's I think it's still very much a compliment. So
Yeah. I appreciate that. Thank you.
yeah, yeah.
But
It's hard
definitely
though. It's hard to be like, I can imagine like being told that all the time, and then getting to this point of like a certain moment in adulthood being like, "Oh wait, I still need my mom, like I still need to
yeah,
call and ask for things." And that's okay. Like, that's,
of
believe
course.
me, and even at 40, I ask my mom things. It's
Yeah.
normal. It's just that sense of being a mother-daughter. That's
Yeah.
just how it is, and so
Yeah,
it's
of
a beautiful
course.
thing.
It
Yeah.
is, and I'm really grateful. I mean, my mom was asleep unfortunately last night. I mean, not unfortunately. Thank goodness that she was asleep at 5 in the morning. But
Yeah.
I was calling my dad and I was like, I have so many essays to do and I have an interview at 11:30 tomorrow. Should I go to sleep? And he's like, please go to sleep. I'm like, but I have to do these. Like, no, go to sleep. And then
Yeah.
I was like, should I drink an energy drink? He's like, no, go to sleep.
Yeah.
And obviously, like it's those little things. I mean, for me that wasn't little. For me that was very very momentous. But
Yeah.
even like those little interactions, like just reinforce the idea. Like you said, we're always evolving. We always have to ask for help, and
Yeah.
we have to
It's
be
okay to ask for help.
grateful. Yeah, it's
It's
okay to
okay to
ask for
ask for
help.
help.
It's
Yeah.
encouraged, and you have to be grateful for the opportunity to even be able to ask for help because there's so many people that don't have the same access to not
Yeah.
only resources, but a community where they can reach out. And when you have a community, whether that's your family, friends, even people you don't know that well, but you have in common a space, an interest, a
Hmm.
hobby, you have to reach out because the fact that you have people around you that are willing to even offer that in the first place,
Right.
that in itself is something that you should always be grateful for. And I feel like, obviously, and of course, teach your children to be mature. You do not want to be walking around with adults who have not learned maturity yet, because that is very important. It's very important to be
Right.
mature, but you also have to teach them the art of gratitude. And it's not just caring. Sharing is caring. Say your pleases and say your thank yous. Of course, those are basic
Yeah.
manners,
Yeah.
but teaching them what it truly means to say thank you, or to just, even if you don't have the strength to say, because sometimes it is hard to say thank you. It's hard to say
Yeah.
thank you when you're given something that you know that you needed, but you didn't have the strength to ask for it.
Yeah.
And that, at least for me, it's asking for help. It's asking for a friend to stay back with me when I'm saying, like, I'm having a hard day and I don't know who to tell. And I
Yeah.
tried praying about it, but I need someone else to talk to me about it.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
even if it's hard, I'm grateful to even have friends that I can talk to.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is a
And
wonderful thing.
yeah,
And being able to ask for help, having a support system, like those are such big things, and especially like in terms of mental health, like
yeah,
speaking up and letting someone know that like, hey, I'm having a hard time. mm, That takes strength. It takes strength to be able to speak up and ask for help. So, yeah.
definitely. So,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Labita, this was great. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. Where can people find you online?
Yes, of course. Well, first of all,
Mhm.
thank you so much for having me.
Mhm.
Currently, I used to have my YouTube channel with Becoming Mujeres, but being that, unfortunately, I've had so much work to be done, I have not uploaded a video in a while. Best believe, definitely over the winter break and spring semester, when things are
Perfect.
slightly more calm, I will be uploading
Yeah.
more. And that is just Becoming Mujeres. You can find it on YouTube. And then, of course, I am a very big LinkedIn user. I'm a LinkedIn warrior. So definitely, if you want to find my LinkedIn, it is literally just my name. But of course, if you can't find it under Lupita Castañeda-Liles, might as well put my full legal name there, Guadalupe Tonancin Lupita Castañeda-Liles. Um, if you need to transcribe that, and or just put it into Google Translate and try to
Yeah.
dictate that on your phone, then go ahead. But that is definitely where I'm most active currently, is my YouTube
Perfect.
channel and then my LinkedIn. Best
Awesome.
believe I will have more posts coming out soon, so don't worry, you will see more of me in the coming weeks. But yeah, other than that, I'm like I said, practicing gratitude. I'm so incredibly thankful for this opportunity to talk with you. Like I
Mhm.
said, I've been dying to have this type of conversation with someone that isn't my usual friend group, where they're like, Lupita, you said this like 50 times. Like, can we talk about something else? And I'm like, I'm just really passionate about it. But
I
yes,
love it.
thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
hope that everyone who's listening enjoys, and that, like I said, just practicing gratitude. And I just want to say, just like I said, thank you so much. And I hope that more people become interested, not only in the work that the both of us are doing, but also, taking the opportunity to really reach out and explore whatever faith means to them, like analyzing how culture intertwines with their identity, because it's so important,
Yeah.
especially right now, is so important.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Lupita. Folks, thank you for tuning in to the Gold Hoops and God podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Guerra. New episodes are available on Wednesdays, wherever you listen to your podcasts, and also the video of the interviews are available on YouTube. So thanks so much. Bye.